Hey, we're back. And speaking of back, like the great Jar Jar Wick once said, yeah, I'm thinking Misa back. It's me. Joe's back. As
How,
you can see, this
how long ago did you think of that? How long have you been waiting to use that line
uh,
for?
like an hour. Um, yes, it's me, Joe, joined by Leo
Yeah, you heard me already.
and Kurt.
Hey.
And I'm back from my little moving hiatus, and trying to. Kurt was asking me if I've been. Oh no, you asked me if I painted the walls. I was like, I haven't painted many minis yet. When people ask me about painting, that's where my head goes. Um,
Yeah, it's like a big mini.
yeah, the whole
Biggie.
house is now like a terrain piece that we have to paint.
Yeah. I noticed though you've only put on the base color. You haven't done any washes or highlights, so there's like
I
some
was
room
thinking
for
about like
improvement.
doing some edge highlighting, to make the corners really stand out. Do some weathering, you know.
Yeah.
Because like if you see, terrain needs like, a lot of weathering. I was need to get a big bucket of null oil to slather the outside of the house.
Yeah, make it look like you've got like dirty streaks coming down from your gutters and stuff.
Yeah, get some like typhus corrosion to those always that always looks nice touch. Maybe put some like graffiti on the back, some like
Can
rebel graffiti or something.
can you imagine what it would cost to buy GW paints and the quantities you would need to
Anyway, I'm back. I know everybody really missed me, so don't worry, it's all going to be better now. Um,
Somehow Joe has returned.
what have you been playing, Kurt?
Since the last time we did a what you've been playing, I played a game of Legion with Leo. We tried out the new rules. Uh I've been playing a little bit of Star Wars Hunters, not every day or anything. I honestly feel like I level up really slow on this battle pass. So I know it's been a little bit of a slog. I'm like playing more and leveling up slower. But anyways, getting in a little bit of Hunters every now and again. I think that's all. I think that's all. Been busy. Haven't been doing a lot of Star Wars games, honestly.
Didn't you play any of the topic of today's episode?
Yeah, I was saving that for when it was on topic. But yeah, I've played like maybe 2 hours due to issues that we will talk about.
Leo, what have you been playing?
Yeah, like Kurt said, we got some Legion in, got to try out the new rules. So that was interesting. I think we'll have an episode with our thoughts on the Legion update here some more once we've maybe get a chance to get at least one more game in.
Yeah, it's worth a deep dive, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, I have not had a chance to play that yet. My Legion stuff is still like the box that they moved in is open, but I haven't like taken it out of the box yet.
Have you checked to see that everything survived? They didn't get like broken in the moving
I
truck.
checked the Shatterpoint, and all of my Shatterpoint stuff made it until I decided to like take Plo Koon out, and then his lightsaber broke. But that
Immediately.
was the one lightsaber that had broken while I was assembling, so it was already like not a good connection. Um, I haven't checked Legion yet. I need to check like my big vehicles, which I tried to take extra care to put in some foam and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the little guys are rolling around in the boxes, but I don't think there'll be any big issues because those were magnetized to some steel that had like a way stronger than necessary connection to the minis, so they don't move. Um, I have been playing. I
Oh,
got
is
in.
Leo done? Did you have any other
Oh,
games?
he
No,
doesn't.
doesn't matter. Joe doesn't care. He wants monopolize the time for himself. No, I played some unlimited as well. Last week we did a draft of Spark of Rebellion at our store, so that was fun, but also weird. Like I had to
Yeah.
get back into the headspace of drafting set one. Um, when I hadn't done that in a while, and it was very strange to like be playing and be like my first turn of my first game. It comes time to resource cards, and I'm like, oh no, I don't have any smuggle cards. I actually have to think about what I'm resourcing. Um, yeah, I've also liked that seeing that stores in town are now getting enough stock again of shadows that they're selling them below retail actually for a full booster box.
Yeah, I've
So
seen some places are selling them for $90 now.
Wow.
Um, the local store I've started going to is still selling them for like 130, but they seem
Wow.
to keep
Jeez.
going down, and I assume they'll catch up to the rest of
yeah,
everybody once
well,
they
and if
realize
they're
nobody's buying it.
and if it's a smaller town, they
It's not.
likely. Hmm? You're not.
The store I've been going to is in Sioux Falls.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought you were going to somewhere in Madison there.
There is nowhere here.
Yeah. Okay. So, gotcha. Okay, I'm done then, Joe.
So I have been since I last was on the show. I've played a lot of Hunters, which was way more enjoyable than I expected. We could do a whole episode on that sometime if anyone cares, because Kurt and I have been playing it a bunch. Although since Outlaws came out, I stopped playing it altogether. I played some Unlimited. I went to the store in Sioux Falls that's where everybody's playing Legion and Shatterpoint and Unlimited. So it's about an hour drive, but an hour on a Friday night, it's not that bad. So I've made it over there twice, played with some people. It's pretty cool. One night the participation, show up, get your OP kit, included just a free booster pack. Like it wasn't even a paid event. He just gave everybody a booster pack, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
It's cool.
So I'll let it slide that they're selling above MSRP still when they're doing cool stuff like that and supporting the game in other ways. We were going to do a draft, but we were one short to get a draft done. I played a little bit of The Phantom Menace for PlayStation 1, which, because I bought that on PS5, I don't know, I think that came out in May or something, or April. I finally played like the opening level, and it was really funny. I could see why it would have been like really popular at the time, or like it seemed cool. Like I'd be like, oh, this would have been like real neat at the time. And now it's just like the voice acting like is really funny, and there was a part where you could fall in like a spinning fan on the Trade Federation ship as Obi-Wan, and he like burst into pieces, like got chopped up. And then there's just like NPCs you can talk to, like just some guys like, hey, I just work here or whatever. You can just cut him down and murder him. It's pretty funny.
And there's no light side, dark side mechanic, I assume.
No consequences for Padawan Obi-Wan just murdering people.
Hey, he was complicit in everything the Trade Federation was doing, so
yeah,
it's morally okay.
Watched Bethany play a little bit of Knights of the Old Republic. Because the plan was she was going to play through that on the drive across the country on the Switch, which didn't happen. Then we were like, oh, should we play that? And then she started, and then it was fun watching her play, but we've gotten busy, and it's not an easy game to like pick up for the first time. Because like even like her playing, the combat is confusing, and all like the mechanics and the menus and the stats, and watching, I'm like, this isn't fun to watch. I wish I could like get a mod that just removes all the combat and lets me play this.
The animations, the same sword strikes over and over.
Stuff yeah, like the combat gets fine once you get your head around it and have your abilities, but like it's not fun to watch. And it's certainly like, Bethany's not a gamer, but she's hasn't been playing games for as long, and it's old, it's dated, it's not it's weird because it's just a tabletop game. I think that's everything I've been playing, and I've been playing Outlaws. For some reason I looked at my soundboard to play the Outlaws theme, but I didn't have that kind of forethought.
That's not the same.
That'll have to do. That's our copyright-free Outlaws
Yeah.
music.
I should be able to hum the main menu music because I've been listening to it a lot on my extremely long load times.
Yeah, so we are going to probably talk way more than anybody needs to hear about Star Wars Outlaws, the new Star Wars game from Ubisoft and Massive. I think it was pretty hyped up. I think we were all rather like excited for this, and now it's out. Leo and I both were suckers and paid extra to play early and get the season pass stuff. So we've been playing since about a week
Yeah,
at time of
last
recording.
Monday.
Yeah, yeah, because it was
It's like a Monday night or a Tuesday night or something.
mhm.
Last I checked, I think I have about a little under 30 hours in the game.
And I've got about 15 so far.
And Kurt, you said you have about 2?
Yeah, at most. I didn't manage to get it to work at all to play until last night. Um, and then playing today, I was trying to, but then it did crash. And yeah, it does have extremely long, just excruciating load times for me. So I'm not able to just get in and pop in.
Yeah, so we should point out
Yeah.
that I am playing it on PlayStation 5, and Kurt and Leo, you're playing on PC.
Yep.
Yeah. And I will say, I know I'm probably a hair under minimum um, requirements on my CPU. I assume, which is probably what's causing me problems. But I'm not on anything else. It's frustrating. I was hoping it would work better. We don't have to go super far into the buggy nature, but it does suck. I have been wanting to play all week and not being able to.
I've been sad too
Rough.
because I'm playing it and man, I bet Kurt would really like all this stuff.
I have enjoyed the little bit I've played so far. The kind of intro mission, like the levels are cool and the graphics look good, even on the lowest settings I turned down to. Man, it looks so much better than Jedi Survivor on low settings. It is insane how bad Jedi Survivor looks and how good this looks in comparison on low. Um, so yeah, I haven't seen that much, but what I liked, what I've seen, I've liked,
Well,
so
that
far.
I will say is a very positive sign because we'll get into it, but just my impression of the game initially was and then the more I played, the more and more I liked it. So if you already like it at the beginning, it's only going to get better and better.
I like
Unless
walking
your
around the
computer
levels at
doesn't.
Yeah.
least.
I
It's like Galaxy's Edge, just like, ooh, look at these cool things on the wall or whatever.
Right.
That's about the most I can do so
That's
far.
that's probably like a good 25% of my playtime is just like looking at things.
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely felt about the same as Joe. Kind of like at the beginning, I was really unimpressed. Like I kind of thought that the whole opening sequence was a bit weak for the game. Um, but I have been enjoying it more as I've played. Um, yeah, it's for me, it's kind of a weird thing where I think in the end, like I enjoy playing the game, but it also is like it doesn't keep me coming back to it the way some other games that I really enjoy do, and we can
Hmm.
kind of talk about some of that stuff as we get into it. Exactly
Okay.
why
So
maybe
what
we think that is.
in one sentence, Kurt, give us your feelings on the game.
Uh, it's kind of cool. Star Wars. I like walking around looking at Star Wars stuff.
Leo, one sentence, your feelings on the game after 15 hours
Um,
on PC.
Better than I thought it was going to be, but not as good as I hoped it was going to be.
Okay. My one sentence is I'll just say I love it after 30 hours. I wouldn't have said that after 5 hours, but after 30 hours, I definitely love it. So let's break down some stuff here. What do the kids want to hear about? Let's talk about. I think there's two sections we're going to talk about, and one is gameplay and one is vibes. and I think the game excels at vibes and is might have differing takes on the quality of the gameplay. So let's start on gameplay. There's a lot because it's an open world game. And I still remember when the game came out, you had posted that somebody said it wasn't an open world game.
Well,
And whoever that was is a fool. This is the most open world game I've played since like Red Dead.
well, yes and no. Like I see kind of what this guy was saying. I do, like I said, this was, I think it was the Eurogamer review I was reading.
Oh, I was like, well, it makes sense if they'd only played like the intro because the intro is
Mhm.
not an open world.
Right.
But I do agree, but it's whenever you're not in the overworld, which is really just a big open empty thing of nothingness to drive your speeder from one level to the next level.
I
Once you
disagree.
get into the various points of interest, for the most part, especially the ones that are part of the story, the ones that are like optional random stuff, it isn't as bad, but all the story ones, it's extremely linear when you're in those.
Yeah, the like, oh, here's an Imperial base, you have to go slice a computer. If it's part of like a story mission, it's usually giving you a very like, hey, this is where you're gonna go in, this is where you're gonna come out. Like I've seen spots where I go, that's an exit. I know I'll be coming out of there later. Like I wish I could go in that way, but she just can't quite jump that extra foot to get in there. But and some other times you can go back and you can hit that thing from any angle you want, which
Mhm.
I've done. Like one time I was like, well, I'm just going to go into this base. I have a challenge where I need to like shoot this many guys, so I'm not going to be sneaky. And I just went and killed everybody in the base and went and looted everything. And then like I had like some kind of contract or a mission where I had to go back to that base later. And I'm like, oh, I was just here. Can I go that way? And I was like, oh, I guess I need to come at it from this direction. So yeah, a lot of the story stuff is a little bit more. Um, it's basically, do you want to be stealthy or do you want to be shooty? And sometimes you don't have a choice on either. Sometimes you have to be sneaky, and sometimes you have to be shooty. Usually, it's you have to be sneaky. Um, those are the kind of the main gameplay
Mhm.
things is shooty and sneaky.
I do hate though when you've gone through an area completely stealth. Like I just did a mission where I stealthed my way through the space. You didn't have to, but I did because I was like, I'm sneaking into a base of one of the syndicates that I want to keep my reputation up with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I make it all the way to the objective, and I activate the terminal. I do the thing, and then after I've done that, then it's all like, okay, now you got to get out, and then it forces me to go through a section where it immediately starts combat. Like as soon as you open the door, it starts combat, and like that's all you can do. And like I was really annoyed where it was like, well, if I had known that, I would have just shot my way through the whole damn base instead of sneaking.
Yeah, that there. I think you would have lost even more rep if you'd done that because you would have lost rep for attacking them, and then you would have lost rep for like the story kind of forcing that on you. But that is, I've noticed that
Um,
sometimes where it's just like now is you have to sneak or the game fails, and now you're wanted or whatever because that's part of the story we're trying to tell here.
yeah, but overall, like the stealth feels a little weak in this game compared to some of the other ones I've played, especially the sections where it's the forced stealth, where it's like if you get seen, it's mission over, and then you got to restart. You get no option to just like stun the guy who saw you, or anything.
Yeah, so I was like, stealth is meh. I like stealth in games. I like even like playing games like Wolfenstein. I like being sneaky because it gives you the option. And like everything else, once you get a little more used to it and get more skills, more importantly, it becomes more fun because the stealth is kind of it's pretty straightforward and not there's not a lot of depth to it. Hide in the tall grass, like every stealth game ever. Go over here. Um, the game never told me you can double tap the circle button or crouch to do a roll, which is really helpful when you're sneaking because you can move
Oh.
fast between cover without
Huh. I didn't know
exposing
that
yourself.
either.
I watched like a 10 things the game doesn't tell you, and all of it was like the game told me that, except for that one thing was like I didn't know you could do a little combat roll. Um, but like
um,
you said, you can't like zap the guy who spotted you, which weirdly enough, the stun shot it makes sense for gameplay, but lore wise, stun is like a one hit kill, and like a regular blaster takes like 3 shots. It's like you should just have your gun on stun all the time, Kay.
Yeah, I've been
Um,
headshotting people, and it's like, oh, they
it's like two
they don't mind
headshots,
that. Yeah.
2 headshots, or like 3 body shots. Uh, you get once you get the quick talk,
that does help a little bit, yeah.
because when they spot you, then she like starts, being like, "Whoa, hey, I'm just checking the vents," and then you can like stun them real quick while they're like, "What?"
Yeah.
And that's kind
If
of fun.
if your stun is actually off on charge.
Right.
That's why I'm glad I got a charm the other day that makes my stun recharge faster,
Yeah,
which I
and
like having.
Nyx is what makes the stealth fun because all of the like the puzzles or like conundrums you come into, like, oh, there's 2 guys over there, and there's a camera here, and there's a door I got to get through. Like Nyx is the way you get through all that. Like, well, is he going to go distract these guys? Is he going to go push that button to turn this thing? Um, so I think once you get the skill like the quick talk, which kind of gets you out of like a oopsie when they spot you, and then I I have the food for you just find different food and it lets you give Nyx different abilities. I give him the one that lets him distract multiple enemies.
Mm.
Because if there's 2 stormtroopers in a hallway, like, and I can get both of their attention, then I can sneak past them. Otherwise, you have to like try and stun one and then knock the other one out right away. My number one issue with stealth sort of falls under the vibes section because it's not a gameplay thing, more of like a theme thing. And I'm kind of used to it now, but it's very weird to see her fist fight a stormtrooper, like 1-2 punch a stormtrooper to knock them unconscious because she's pretty small. She's not like a bodybuilder or
Yeah,
just like particularly like muscly.
like when
Like
Zeb would do it in Rebels, you were sort of like, okay,
right,
I guess.
right. Like Zeb was like the biggest, like the smallest guy I could believe like knocking out a stormtrooper in one punch, and Kay is running around just slamming them into the ground and they stay down. Like I was like, well, I think it would have been cooler if she just had some kind of like electric knuckle duster or like a stun
Yeah.
gun.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
kind like MJ in the Spider-Man 2.
Right. Yeah. And like it's just a little like I'm over it. It's still fun to like see stormtroopers get knocked around, but it's very weird because if you punch the air too, her like punch animation is like the weakest of any video game protagonist I've seen. Like how is she
Well,
taking down just punching out Trandoshans and stuff? But
I feel like I think a couple things that have really bothered me with the stealth is one, sometimes it's kind of buggy. Like I've walked right in front of people's faces sometimes and they don't notice me, and other times I've had them see me through walls.
I've never had anybody see
Um,
me through walls.
and uh, and the other thing is and maybe this would be more in vibes, but there's like nothing fun to listen to while you're sneaking around. Like that is one thing about like uh Jedi Survivor and stuff. Just listening to the NPC dialogue, you could just kind of like sit there and do that.
Yeah, that's
But
a great point.
but nobody, no NPC in Outlaws ever has anything interesting to say.
I don't know if that's true.
It's
Sometimes
true.
the stormtroopers are like, "Oh, I wonder how my application of the 501st is coming along." And some like the stormtroopers like, "Oh, I knew a guy who lost a hand because he overcharged his blaster." The weird thing is, there's clearly like a list of audio files that's like stormtrooper tells a tidbit, and then stormtrooper responds to tidbit, and all the responses they'll say something sort of interesting or outlandish, like, "Oh, I was this close to being shot in the gut," or like, "Oh man, you don't know, I was at the Battle of Scarif. You don't know war until you've been there." And then the other guy always just goes, "Huh."
Yeah, but like they're not. It's never like anything very entertaining or interesting to listen to,
It's usually not that
or
funny.
or like the way they're said is sort of like kind of weird tone, like the guy going on about pacifying a bunch of villages one time. I was all like, okay, buddy.
And a lot
I
of
mean,
times they're just like, "I wonder when the meal break is." So they do
um,
say things, but you're right. It's not like the level in like Survivor where I want to stop and let them keep talking.
Like
yeah,
every time.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're just it's just always it's just sort of stuff where they're like, oh man, the Empire. I love being in the Empire. Do you? Huh? Yeah. Yeah.
There's
But
a few
yeah,
that
so
are like
that's
planet specific. Like I've heard
yeah.
stormtroopers complain about Tatooine, and I've heard a few like say they really like Tatooine because they get to shoot more people there or something like that. Like, "Oh, I like how it's rough. It's not like being posted on this
um,
other boring place."
You make it
Also,
sound like JD Vance type banter, like, okay, good. Whatever makes sense.
That's the like the response to all of them is there's always a stormtrooper that goes,
Oh, sure.
"Yeah." It's like whatever they say, there's just like the canned response of, "Huh, yep."
it's like what's their faces in Alien? The one guy every time he says something, the other one just goes right.
Right.
So that's stealth.
um,
I enjoy it. I don't. My take on basically all the gameplay elements here is other games do it better, but not necessarily all in the same game.
yeah, yeah. It's very much it. The game sort of definitely feels to me like an amalgamation of stuff from other games that they just didn't copy quite as well, you know?
Right. But none of them are like bad. I wouldn't say the stealth is bad. I wouldn't say the combat's bad. Other games do it better, but it's not bad. And if you give me something that's not bad and has a Star Wars coat of paint on it, that makes it pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Um like we were saying, like another thing, like the traversal stuff, the climbing and all the grappling definitely feels like, cribbed from
It's kind of filler.
some of
Yeah.
these
Right.
other
I
games.
As soon as
And
I had to do that, I rolled my eyes. I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to climb the rock wall that's like got a different texture from the rest of the rocks." I so I did turn off the thing that makes all like the climbable pipes and stuff yellow, like, "Here, climb me." And I recommend doing that because all of those things still absolutely stand out as, "Hey, please climb me, player. This is your one place to climb, and if you're close, it'll give you the button prompt." So it at least like blends into the world a little bit more, but they
yeah,
still really stand out as like, "Climb here."
I will say like the yellow paint on them and stuff is like less obnoxious than say like the first Horizon game.
Yeah.
Like
Agreed.
like they really went overboard with making sure all the climbable stuff was highlighted in that game.
Horizon did it.
But I feel like but the actual act of climbing and jumping from uh you know object to object and things like that just felt so much better even in that first Horizon game, and then they really amped it up in the second one. And
Yeah.
whereas this, it all feels slow and clunky, and sometimes like sometimes it annoys me because it's like if I'm not pointing my thumbstick in exactly the right spot, it won't jump over to the next uh, climb point. And like the anime, some of the animations, like when you're climbing and stuff, just look a little off. They look a little weird to me. Like there
Yeah,
could have
I
been another pass done on those.
it's very it reminds me of Uncharted. Uncharted probably does it better. But in that, like, every time you're climbing, there's always get from point A to point B. It's not like Assassin's Creed or a lot of the times in Horizon where you can climb whatever you want and, forge your own path. It's just here are the obvious climb this things and this is going to get me from point A to point B.
Yeah,
Sometimes there's like a timing thing where you're like I got to wait for the fan to turn off before I can jump over there. It's pretty boring, uninspired
yeah. It's
climbing
all
stuff.
like I said. It's one of those things where it's linear. It gives you the illusion of being open world because oh, you can climb now up to this cliff, but also it's like, well, you had to do it, and there was only one way to do it. I couldn't go at the cliff from over here, over here, over here. You know,
I
um,
feel like they felt like they needed to add climbing because then your game is pretty two-dimensional. Like I don't like the climbing, but when you have planets and puzzles and like there's a lot of the side stuff is about finding quote unquote treasures,
yeah,
and some of them are like hidden in on top of cliffs or in caves, and those involve like, traversal to get there. I don't know how you could do
yeah.
any of what the game does without a climbing mechanic, but
The
it's pretty much the bare minimum they could have gotten away with.
I feel like the one time so far in where I've played, the one time where I felt it actually was used well and I actually enjoyed it was um, when I'm trying to sneak into this one base, uh, and you're going along this path, and there's a bridge, and
I know what you're talking about.
yep, yeah, and you have a choice. You can fight the guys on the bridge, but if you want to sneak, you can kind of dangle off the side and climb along the side of the bridge, and like at a use like that, climbing felt good, like it had a place and it belonged. Um,
Yeah, and
but
then you
yeah,
sort of climb the building and get in like a window, and that like I don't know how like without the ability or climbing mechanics it would be lame, but like yeah, it should just have a little bit more robustness to it. Also, I think
yeah,
for
or
whatever reason I don't
even
like
if
the
you could
grappling
just
hook.
do even if you could just do multiple paths,
Right.
you had a couple different choices when you were climbing,
Yeah.
rather
I don't
than just always being railroaded on one straight path that you climb along.
The grappling hook bugs me. Most not that there aren't grappling hooks in the very first Star Wars movie anybody ever saw. There was a grappling hook that weirdly it comes standard stormtrooper issue, but it still feels very not Star Wars when in episode 1 we see them like have a little ascension gun and Cal has like a grapple gun. It's maybe they didn't want to remind players of Cal Kestis's traversal in Survivor, but
Yeah,
it almost feels like did they copy paste this from a different Ubisoft game I never played? Because like she swings it and throws it and then has to like hand over hand climb, and it's like you're in Star Wars, you should have something that like zips you up quicker, or maybe all of those spots are they slow the player down to like load stuff because there's some spots where like the walking speed slows when you're like in a populated area, and I assume that it's to help load the next area. I don't know.
yeah. I mostly climbing up and swinging doesn't bother me as much as going down, especially when it's a you're going down this grapple point to exit the base or whatever.
Hmm.
Like all of like every time I do it, I want it to be like Horizon where you kind of like jump off and just
Yeah.
fall down and then in a couple seconds you're back at the ground. But instead I have to slowly climb down.
Yeah, she can slide down ladders really fast. Why can't she just do that with her rope?
um, oh,
If
and a
needs an
thing I was
ascension
gonna
gun,
and a thing
it
I was
just
gonna mention during stealth, but it was just how freaking many air vents you have to crawl through in this game. And you will see so many different kinds of vents. You'll get to enjoy clean vents and vents full of spider webs and
vents full
rusty
of
vents,
sand,
and
Tatooine
yeah.
vents, but they are
um
all standardized, the same dimensions. You
Yep,
know, like
they
the
are
2x2
design.
or
Yep,
whatever.
they are exactly big enough for KVS to crawl through, all over the place.
You should have bigger thighs because she spends like 70% of the game like in a squat, walking around.
um, I I am not a huge fan of the speeder. Um, like it's fine.
I like the
Uh,
speeder, but I won't counter any of your issues with it.
Especially, I'm learning to hate it even more now that I'm on Tatooine, because there's so many rocks that look like I should just go over them, but I don't, and then I go slam into them and go flying off into the sunset.
Did you unlock the bunny hop?
Yes.
I like the speeder. It's I was really excited because I when I went to Tatooine, I had previously spent all my time on Akiva, and I hate driving around Akiva. It sucks because it's busy. Everything is hard to navigation in general in the overworlds in the game is hard. It's not like other open world games I'm used to, where if I set a waypoint, I have a mini map that sort of shows me the path, like the GPS, which is what I'm used to. It's not like it's on me for missing that, but some of the worlds are like I start driving and then I look at the map and I go, "Oh, I was driving in totally the wrong way because there's like a mountain in the way and I went right when I should have gone left." And just navigating without like pausing the game to bring up the map all the time is kind of hard.
It's a little
Um
weird not to have a mini map
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
screen.
I also, though, I guess I don't mind that myself, just because, like, I've, I played games before there were mini maps, so there's part of me that gets why they're there, and part of me that's all like, kids these days are weak.
right, sometimes it's nice to like get a little lost, but on Akiva, I think mainly my issue is with Akiva because sometimes if you go the wrong way, you can't like hook around because there's like a
And,
cliff or a river or a big impassable thing of trees. And
yeah, and it
sometimes
would.
like I will run into the jungle and get off my speeder and I realize the game never intended for a human to be here. Like I can walk around, but she's struggling to like climb over anything, and I've got to like try and glitch my way back to the speeder to get on so I can keep moving. That's happened a couple times on Akiva.
I
You get
definitely
off
got
the
lost on
road.
Tashana, so
I really like Toshara, and it's fun driving around with the over the shallow water or the grass. Just if you have like a nice straight and you open up the speeder, it feels kind of fun to just gun it.
Yeah, except I get attacked by the pikes every 30
Maybe
seconds.
you shouldn't have done things to make them mad
Well,
at
maybe
you.
they shouldn't have had dumb, ugly faces.
see, I only just got the speeder bike, but I was like so lost trying to follow the waypoint. It was like just not obvious, and there's people chasing me. I accidentally went to an Imperial base because I thought that's where it was directing me, and then I'm being chased by like Imperials and random gang members at the same time, and it's like I have no idea where I'm going, and I don't know how I did not die. But from the little bit I got of playing the speeder bike, I thought it was kind of fun. I liked flying around a little. I like that you can do the brake turns to spin
Yeah,
around and stuff, do donuts. So
those are fun.
can you shoot on the bike? I couldn't figure out. It seemed like I
So
should
Only
be able to, and I
only
couldn't.
when your adrenaline fills up and you do like the Red Dead like bullet time thing.
Okay.
yeah,
It would be
that's
more fun if you could shoot on the bike.
right. Well, that's something I need to like Google because there is a challenge to unlock a new ability that says like headshot people on speeders. I'm like, how the heck am I going to do that if I can't like free aim when I'm on a speeder? I have to reread it, but like if I'm assumed it meant I'm driving. If they were driving, that's still incredibly difficult to shoot them because they're fast and
It's you get them aggroed on you, then you hop off your speeder, and as they're slowing down to hop off their speeders, also you just blast them in the face.
did you do that one?
I have not done that challenge, but like
I'll
I
have
said,
to check
I
the
get
wording.
attacked. I'm very familiar with fighting people when you're on your speeder because, like I said, on both Tashara and on Tatooine, I get attacked by pikes like every 30 seconds,
I did
especially on
one.
Tatooine because they are driving everywhere.
So speaking of shooting guys, combat. Um, I thought combat was and now I really like combat, and I've started now that my pistol is upgraded more, and I've got more combat oriented skills and clothing. I am like, do I want to sneak? There's only like at the start of the game, I was like, there's 3 guys. This is going to be a problem if they see me. And now I'm like, there's only 6 of them. I can shoot all of them in slow motion. And I got to
Yeah,
say, this game gets a 10 out of 10 in the uh, Stormtroopers dying category, which is an important category for me in Star Wars video games. I could shoot Stormtroopers in this game all day. It's so fun.
I like shooting guys on speeders. Rather, I like shooting their speeders and blowing up the speeders with them
I
on
love
it.
hearing them
That's
go into the distance, and then you hear a little explosion.
um, but overall, I the combat's like okay. There's nothing too terribly interesting about it, but it's fine.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Other games do it better, but when you make it Star Wars and you put that fine combat, and a big part of it is me shooting stormtroopers and seeing their stupid ragdoll with like the burning hole in their face, that just makes me a very happy boy. Like the ragdoll is great. It's so funny, especially when you hit people with a stun and they just sort of collapse. There's,
Um,
I have not gotten sick of just unloading into stormtroopers and seeing them tip over, and it's too good. If you gave me a game that's all you did was shoot stormtroopers, I'd be happy. But sometimes I think I should just go back and play Battlefront 2 and do like the single player modes where you play as Leia or whatever and just shoot
you need
stormtroopers.
you need like a mobile game, like one of those like definitely fake games I get ads for sometimes, where it's just like a guy with a gun, and it's
Yep.
just like a wall of like zombies or whatever walking at him, and he's just like
Well,
until then he upgrades his gun, and then he shoots more zombies and stuff. But you need that, but stormtroopers coming
well,
at you.
you see, it's not like a stormtrooper dying in itself is a cool thing to happen. But a big part of the satisfaction I get is when there's a great physics engine attached to it, like in Battlefront or Jedi Survivor or this game where you shoot them, they react, and then they fall over in a dumb pile and you laugh at their stupid dead body, or you knock them off a
You
cliff,
need
or
like
like
a like Gang Beasts Star Wars edition.
that would be great. There, no, I was gonna say I thought there was Star Wars in Party Animals, but there's like knockoff Star Wars in Party Animals.
They just add Star Wars skins to like Fall Guys or something like that.
There is, I there's Star Wars and Fall Guys. I think it's in Fortnite, so it'd be in Fall Guys. Maybe they never got to Fall Guys, which is weird because Fall Guys is cute and Fortnite people shoot each other. But
Mm. Um,
yeah, yeah,
I, space combat's fine too.
it's
Um,
space combat is if you liked the space combat in Battlefront 2, it's basically the same with a few, just different like special abilities happening. Um, I don't mind it. I don't spend much time in space because the I can't shoot people in the face. I
yeah,
can't look at pretty environments. there's not a lot to look at in space.
Around Kajimi, it's kind of neat to fly around in the nebula there.
Yeah, Kajimi is cool. Everything else is like they tried to put things out here, but it's not enough to.
Yeah, some wreckage you can fly through and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
gonna.
have you unlocked your the turret yet on
I
your?
just that was one of the last things I did before I hopped on here. It just a thing. I think it's sort of like the turrets in Squadrons, where you push a button and it auto targets people,
Hmm,
and then it has a cooldown. It's like it's another
yeah.
tool.
Um, are you with me on being just absolutely annoyed that the scan the area button in space and the scan the area button on the ground are two totally different buttons? Like
No,
if you want to scan the area and look for like points of interest or items to pick up in your cargo hold or whatever where you're in space, you push you do R3, you tap the push down the right thumbstick. But when you're on the ground and you use Nix's like sonic locator thing or whatever, it's you push up on the D-pad. So sometimes when I'm on the ground and I want to do it, I hit R3 if I had just been like up in space. But then sometimes when I'm in space and I want to do it, then I end up hitting up on the D-pad and fire off my chaff countermeasures or whatever that
I
that actually
somehow
does in your ship.
never had that problem.
Oh,
I
it
can see how
happens to
that
me.
could. It never happened to me, but maybe just my brain was like, ship has button, Nyx has his little tendrils, and it's just different. But I can see now that you say it, it probably should have been the same thing, but I never. My the space is where one of my greatest issues with the game comes from, and that is I would call it an accessibility issue. Um, like most games, they have a lot of different accessibility issues. Among the basic ones that most games have had for a long time is letting you pick different controls. This game doesn't let you map your buttons that I could tell. But so default control on foot. That's how I play. It's fine. The default controls are I have no issue with them. The default controls in space are not what my brain likes for space controls. The I have the same control scheme I used in Squadrons in Battlefront 2. Might have had it in Starfield or something. Anytime there's a game where I fly a spaceship or an airplane, I have this set of controls. It must have come from some airplane game I played a long time ago because it just makes sense. I for this game, it's just make sure the flight is inverted. I invert the flight stick because airplanes, and I switch it to southpaw because in my brain the left stick is for moving and the ship is what's moving. By default, the right stick moves the ship, which I guess is like aiming, but I'm not aiming the ship, I'm moving the ship. And anyways, you cannot divorce the control scheme that you're using for space from the control scheme that you're using for on foot. In other games, like Battlefront, that has multiple things, I can have default for on foot and southpaw for in space. In this game, it's the same for both. So I tried playing default space and just because I've played all these other Star Wars flying games this way, I just kept bumping into things and it was frustrating. So what I do now is I go to space, I pause the game, I go into the settings, I switch to southpaw
Jeez.
and undo it. And then it's fun because it controls the way I expect it to, but it's so silly that you can't switch the control scheme for space without changing the control scheme for the ground. It's really a crazy omission on their part. I don't remember a game like that didn't, have that be an option.
Hmm.
Especially considering how many accessibility options they have in general. It's weird that they would miss such a basic one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just kind of in general feel like, and maybe there's going to be something further on in the game that's going to change my mind, but um, it space just sort of feels like tacked on in a way Well, not
Yeah.
necessarily tacked on, but it feels like it's incomplete, or like just sort of like it's like three-quarters of the way there, just kind of like everything else in the game, or most of the stuff in the game, to where, like, I don't know, maybe just cut out the space and devote that time and resources to some of the other stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, I really like the idea of taking off from the planet, going up to space, having the option of exploring stuff around the planet, and then jumping into hyperspace and stuff. It's just like, I don't know. I wish when you were in space, it felt more interesting.
Yeah,
Like
I
you said,
agree.
there's
It seems like, well, they're like, well, we can't have a game like this and not let the player have their own ship that they get control of. And then they're like, okay, so what happens in space? And they're like, oh, space is empty. uh, let's fill it with as much
yeah.
stuff as we
I
can.
mean,
But then,
and like on occasion, there's um, like there are some quests, but most of the quests are just fly to the waypoint and pick up the cargo that was there.
or
Um,
fight the
and
fighters
then
that are
yeah,
attacking
and
the
then and yeah,
fighter.
yeah, and then sometimes pirates might spawn. It's
Yeah, I like doing space when it's part of a mission. I have yet to feel compelled to like explore. I see the question marks out there, like, oh, undiscovered area. I'm like, I'll do that on the ground where I can. It's a little more interesting
Mm,
visually. I I would have
that's
been
too
nice
bad.
to be able to like get up from the cockpit while you're in space and walk around your ship and like look out the window. But I
yeah,
imagine that would have been a
be
huge
like
technical leap
be
to.
like
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but also like
Well,
lots
you
of
can
other
do
games let you
you can
do
do
it.
that in Starfield, and Starfield's shit.
You could do it way back in Star Wars Galaxies.
Yeah, I just don't know what their thing with their engine is. Like, there's no necessity for me. I just want to stand up and like walk around my ship and look out the window. There's no gameplay need for that. It's just a atmosphere thing. Like, they filled the world with all these spots to like sit and lean, which they just want you to absorb the atmosphere. And some of those I like. Some of them are like, why did you want me to like look at this like shopping
Yeah,
thing?
there's
But
one like I found on Tashara that it's like a little like campsite, and you can sit down, and then the camera like turns to look at all these like cool like waterfalls and stuff. And I was all like, "Oh, that's actually really neat." That's the first one of these I've found that I've been like, "Oh, nice."
yeah, like
And I just sat there for a while and was like, "All right, now back to killing people."
yeah, I want to do that in space and like look out my space window. So the game has. Oh, wait, let's. Does anybody have any feelings about the reputation system? This is one of
It's
the more unique-ish elements of the
yeah,
game.
I mean, it's fine. It's interesting. It's um like I said though, like there's not a lot of consequences. Like I can like even though like the pikes hate me and hunt me down every 30 seconds when I'm in the overworld, I could still just I go do like one or two quests and I'll be back in their good graces again, and it's
I
I don't know. It's kind of like
In my
whatever.
experience, it feels like I lose more rep than I gain, and it's harder to get rep. I think everybody really likes me right now except the Huts, and I that's the other thing. A lot of times you complete a job and you'll get a choice and be like, get very little money but get rep positive with these people, or get a lot of money and get rep negative. I'm like, I'm gonna pick the positive rep. The money, I can find credits lying around. The rep is important because also if you max out rep, you get like a cool costume from.
Hmm.
They're like, wow, we really like you. Here's a new set of clothes. I
Yeah,
want to
I'm
get the Huts to like
mostly
me because they have like a Sabine outfit.
uh
Oh,
see, and I'm
wow.
mostly just trying to get full rep with Crimson Dawn just so I can get that outfit. And then
I Yeah, I just got
once
that one.
once I have my Crimson Dawn outfit, at that point I don't really care about my rep at all in any of the for anybody.
I Like you said, it's I don't know if you said it was annoying, but if your rep is low enough, it makes getting around the world harder, which is kind of the biggest consequence. Is like I can't just walk over there without them trying to shoot me on sight. And so that's the main reason I'm trying to keep my rep up with people, is so I can explore more freely.
Yeah, but I'd also have to do like more side quests and stuff.
I don't mind the side quests. Some of them, if I see one that's like, oh, this one takes place in orbit, I'm like, we'll see if I get to that. But there's a number of mini games, like every good open world game, a lot of mini games. I guess there's fewer. All open world games I tend to compare to Red Dead 2, the best game of all time, and this one has far fewer mini games than that.
Yeah.
The main one is obviously Sabak.
Yeah, and I
Which
guess the two of them, the lock picking and the terminal slicing, I don't know if I really call them mini games. I mean, they are,
It's
but
not like you do them
it's
just to do them and play
yeah,
the
right.
game.
It's not like a recreation your character is doing. It's a thing.
yeah. But
I
the
enjoy them though.
like the slicing to slice into terminals, it sort of works like Wordle, but with
It's
like
absolutely Wordle.
Star Warsy symbols.
Yeah, which makes it a
Um,
little harder because you can't
There's
like
no
pick a
guessing.
word. You're just going
yeah,
Yeah.
symbols. There is one thing I don't know if the game told me, but I saw in a Reddit post, when you're hovering over the symbols, there's little lines that connect some of them.
yeah. The game, if you click the like help button or whatever, like when it the
Oh, sure.
the it tells you that in there.
Okay.
It does
Yeah.
tell you
I
that.
There's
didn't
only
see
one
that.
symbol included for each line.
Yeah,
So you can get a
you
better
need
spread of
to
your guesses.
unlock before that happens, Kurt. You need to unlock like a slicing upgrade. So you
Okay.
may not have even seen that yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, but
Kessel
yeah,
or yeah,
I
Bach is
and then
great.
and then the lock picking is like it's like a
Rhythm
rhythm
game.
game kind of
Oh,
thing. So
rhythm
it's
thing.
like
Yeah. That was
you
neat.
can
I
hear
thought.
the tones as the lock is turning, and then you kind of like press your trigger clicks to match it. And that's like fun to do a few times. But after a while I sort of like I was like, okay, I get it. It was kind of fun, but now most of the time it's just like I just want to get the damn door open and
Yeah,
continue on with the level. So the nice thing is in the settings you can just turn off the mini games for the slicing and the lock picking if you want, which
yeah.
I did. I still do the slicing, uh, but I turned it off for lock picking. Although that did almost get me to fail a mission earlier today because you do still have to like press the trigger when you pick locks. Um, but you don't have to worry about matching a beat. It's just like, oh, this one would have taken, 3 trigger pulls or whatever. So you pull the trigger 3 times and then the door unlocks. Well, I was like in a hurry because I was like, I got to get this door sliced open before this guy turns around and sees me. So I like start hammering on the trigger, and the door unlocks, but I was still hitting the trigger. I fired my blaster, and then everyone in the area is like, oh, what was that? What was that? And they all came over to investigate, but luckily no one tried to open the door that I just went through to see if I was on the other side.
Must have just been the wind.
Um,
The
but yeah,
slicing is or the lock picking is kind of slightly neater on PS5 because the triggers have that like resistance. So
mm,
different parts of the game give different. So like when you are missing it, the trigger like is really stiff, and when you hit it, it's really loose, and that's just kind of a nice little touch.
mm.
Also, like it lights up to the beat on your controller.
Oh, neat.
But
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, like you were saying, Sabak is kind of neat. But even that is like I really enjoyed Sabak the first few times I played it. Uh, but I'm kind of getting bored of it because it's pretty simplistic, the game. It's
I agree. I think the biggest thing that feels so weird to me is there's no element of betting or folding. It's
yeah.
either you win or lose. You have chips, but those chips aren't like a currency. It's just sort of like points. And once you're out of points, you're out of the game. and whoever is the last one standing gets the whole pot. The lack of betting and folding like poker style or like other versions of sabak makes it feel so weird, uh and
Is there a
sort
way
of
to
like
cheat?
there is a
You
way to cheat. However,
Okay.
the way to cheat is rarely helpful. You can cheat by having Nyx peek over their shoulder and somehow he communicates what cards they have to you. I don't know how that works. It's cute when you fail. You have to like time a button press and they'll like see him and he'll go "Ugh," and like pretend he wasn't looking and like lick his paws. But um
She's got to have telepathy with Nyx, right? It's like the only
right?
way any of this stuff makes sense.
Uh like some because if you see, oh, that person has like the best hand in the game, other versions I would go, that's my cue to fold, or they have a bad hand, that's my cue to place a big bet.
yeah.
That doesn't exist. You either choosing to spend one of your points to draw a new card or don't. And even if I choose not to, I'm hardly saving my points because I'm going to lose and that'll
Yeah,
cost me
yeah,
points.
you still get taxed uh tokens every time, no
So
matter what.
the
Um
usefulness of cheating and the more interesting parts of the game, I think, are all dependent on the shift tokens, which is where it seems you just get 3 tokens that give you a one-time effect. You can collect them around the world. Some tables have like you have to use these 3. Like, oh, you're at the high roller table. House rules say everybody has to use these 3, and those I think make the game have more of a game element because it's like, oh, I got the one chip that can make somebody dump their hand or swap hands with me. And that's when cheating helps because I go, well, I know they got the best hand. Uh, Without those shift tokens, the game is pretty. Uh, there's not a lot to it. There's not a way
yeah.
to like. It feels good. Like I did win a game where the opponent had Prime Sabak, which was 2 1s, and I had Pure Sabak, the 2 Cylops, and I was like, yeah, Star Wars. But like on its own, without those shift tokens that like basically give you cheats or like legal, like, oh, break the rules in this specific way, there's not as much to the game
Yeah.
as
and
the version of Sabak you get at Galaxy's Edge.
and all the like dialogue as you're playing feels very extremely unnatural. That's why I like it when I'm at a table with a character who's talking in Huttese, because it feels just more natural. Whereas like when they're actually speaking in English and they're saying like draw, pass, shift, sabak,
I think
prime
it's
sabak.
also
It's all like, I don't know, it just feels
One, two,
like very
command.
weird.
like the tiniest gripe or critique anyone could ever make of this game is that Kay will sometimes say pass and sometimes she'll say stand. And I feel like you'd pick one word in your life. You know what? If I was a Sabak player, I probably would have landed on whichever word people said when I was growing up and stick with that one. And I wouldn't, switch in the same game.
Yeah. But like as far as Sabak goes, like I don't mind playing it like the times when like a quest or the story sends me to go play one, but I don't go out of my way to try and find all the secret Sabak dens or anything like that, just because I'm just it's like, again, it's okay, you know. It's just
The
like we've sort of said, everything about it is like it's okay, but it's like if they would have just thought about this a little bit more, I think they could have made a much more
I
interesting card game.
I wonder if they wanted to make it fast because some games end in one like round. Usually if you get to 3 rounds, that's like the games are fast. Like I would play poker in Red Dead and I could sit there and burn an hour just playing the poker mini game. And Sabak in Red Dead is usually pretty quick and it's not that big of a diversion and you can even like put it in fast mode. um
Yeah,
that
I
that
could see that.
said, you don't get much of a payout. Like it's not like time in versus credits out isn't that big when you could just go run around looking for the treasure. Um, I did see you can get weighted cubes for sabacc to like
Hmm.
because interesting slash weird rule is in previous versions of sabacc, like what I've played on the channel. Go check out our videos. Um, After 3 rounds, you roll the dice. If they're doubles, everybody just has to dump their hand and draw that many new cards. It's dumb and it feels bad. Um, in this version, there's a card that is basically a joker that
Yeah,
you roll
called
both.
the imposter.
Yeah, you roll both the dice and then you pick one of the values and you assign that to the card, which mechanically is way cooler than, hey, let's see if everybody's, all the work we've done this far is worthless because somebody rolled doubles. It's cooler. And I guess you can, if you talk to like, do some quests for a Jawa or something, you can get some like weighted dice so that you can improve your odds if you use that card. But I tend to dump that card if I can. My
Yeah,
I only keep it if my alternative is like a 4, 5, or 6.
I do like the card dealing droid. Uh, I think he's really cool.
I wish he
Um,
spoke or something.
yeah, yeah. Just overall, like the design of the sabacc tables is really cool and stuff. Um, let's see what else we got. We've got fathier bedding.
That's cool the first time. Then it's really not worth your time unless you can find tips in the world, either on a data pad or talk to somebody. They'll be like, I think the oldest fathier is going to win. And then it tells you, because all the fathiers have a lot of different stats, and you'll find things that says the shortest fathier is going to win today.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, or well, usually the tips are talking about how someone has rigged the race in some way, and they
right.
so that they know that it's going to be the fattest one or the shortest one or whatever. Which I guess fits in with the whole like you're dealing with the underworld and stuff like that. But
I have won
it
legitly once by
it
just
does
picking
really
the
annoy
one.
me that you can't skip the whole racing sequence. It's like once you've seen it like once, you just want to get, especially on the ones where you know what the outcome's going to
Right.
be. It's like I just want to get to the end of this. Um, so yeah, it's again, it's a neat thing, I guess, for someone who wants to do it. It just doesn't interest me that much. And outside of the couple times you have to do it for the story, it's another thing. I'm just sort of like, okay, and and have never done again.
Yeah. I still
Um,
like doing sabacc. I don't bother with the fathier thing
yeah,
unless I like found a tip and there's one, right over there.
yeah.
Even if I find a tip, if I got to go out of my way to find the table, I don't do it.
I
There's
also it really annoys me that you get a tip sometimes and then you go to the table, but and it just says like that it'll have a thing that says like this race is rigged, but it doesn't tell you like what the tip is that you found.
uh,
Great.
Um,
so
so you're
there
just like,
are
oh, okay, what? I now I got to try and remember what the tip is.
there's like
But
3 video arcade games, which one is dumb. It's called Wandering Scilab. It's like 3 card Monty but digital. It is an
yeah,
easy way to make credits because it's pretty easy.
yeah, but it's
Uh,
also like boring to just sit
yeah.
there and play that.
Well, that's, like grannies do that sort of thing. There should have just been slots.
Yeah.
You could sit there and watch K
Yeah, like the
age.
first time I walked up to it, I thought because it's like it's got a picture of like because the Psylop is a Sabak card, and so it's got a picture of Sabak cards on the screen and stuff, and I was like, oh, is this gonna be like some sort of digital version of Sabak? But no, I got stuck playing the stupid, you know, uh, hide the P under the shell game.
Yeah. The other two are more interesting, like just from an in-universe perspective. I don't know what they're called. One, it's a, it's very similar to in KOTOR, that little like underground swoop racing mini game where you're always going forward and you just have to go left and right to avoid obstacles and hit boost pads, and that's all
Hmm.
it is. And I think you're just trying to get the best time before you get to the end of the track. Um, it's hurts my eyes and gets very very fast. But it's fine. And then the other one I only played once, and it's sort of like just shooting asteroids from like a turret. It's cool because like the graphics are like old timey,
Yeah,
like what you'd
I mean,
expect graphics to look like in
I,
Star Wars.
yeah, I think they're supposed to sort of evoke like the original like Star Wars arcade game in some ways a little bit. Um, and it's again, they're things that I felt were like fun to play like one time,
Hmm.
but I don't see myself going back to them and playing them a
I wonder if
bunch.
there's like some kind of bonus or reward if you get to the top of the leaderboard, because there's like a little leaderboard. Like
Yeah.
an old school arcade game, you can see it says K and Arabesh if you get on there. The last, I guess, mini game, which I would highly recommend disabling in the options, is when you get street food with Nix. Each planet has like a food vendor where it's like a robot chef, and you order food. And there's a fun little scene where the robot makes the food, and then you share it with Nix. And then there's just like a needless quick time event where like,
Of
hey,
you
press
guys eating. Yeah.
square to put the fork to K's mouth, or like tap this button so that Nix, takes a chomp of the corn. And it's like, this was a cute scene that I was really enjoying until I realized it was button prompts on screen that I was missing, and they were just kind of sitting there waiting for me to like engage. So I turned that off, and then it's much better to just have this cute little cut scene.
Yeah. I wish I would like the option to be able to skip the cutscene if I wanted, but
Yeah, but I guess since it's technically not a cutscene, it's gameplay.
yeah, so instead you just sit there and watch it. And like some of them are more interesting than others. Like the one on Kijimi is funny but also terrifying as someone who grew up in the north in the winter. um
I
and
like the one with
Poor Nix.
bugs, and I think that's the kind of food they should be selling at Galaxy's Edge. Actual alien cuisine, where Kay sits down and she goes, "Try some of the larva or whatever." Like, should be feeding people like
They do
grasshoppers.
gummy worms,
I need actual like really things that are like super alien.
but
Um,
there's no Earth species in space, so it'd be unrealistic.
Speaking of Earth species in space, Tatooine, Canto Bight, can't remember. Kijimi had like space rats. If you look, there's some little rats running around that had a different character model. For sure, Tatooine and Canto Bight had regular ass normal rats running around. If you go into photo mode and you go look at them, it's just regular rats, which is fine. There are a number of just straight up unaltered human animals in Star Wars, like ducks and stuff. But I was just like, did they copy paste this from a different game and think I wouldn't notice? Of course, I'm going to look at the little rats in Star Wars and see what kind of weird critter is going on.
Those one-eyed owls on Kijimi are kind of freaky.
Yeah, they were cool. I like the one that
And they're
sits behind the lady at
huge.
the sabacc table.
um
Let's speed past our notes a little bit. We got quests. I don't think there's anything noteworthy about quests. They're pretty standard open world stuff. I enjoy the story quests a lot, even though we said they tend to be far more linear than other things.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, everything else is mostly a either go to this point and find the hidden item or go to this point and shoot a few guys, you know.
or go to this
um
point and hack the computer.
yeah.
Um,
um
Kurt, you added this note progression. Do you have questions about progression?
Well, yeah, this is part of the mechanics for me that I haven't seen yet in just the intro, but like, um, you know, since you guys are further, what's your feel on like leveling up and like upgrading your equipment? Does it feel like there is cool stuff to unlock? Because I know that'll be a big draw for
Yes.
me. If it's cool, is like, oh, I want to get more stuff.
There's cool
I
stuff
feel
to
like
unlock. The way you
uh,
do it is interesting.
unlocking like for your blaster and also like your ship weapons and stuff, unlocking and upgrading like the new modes for your blaster and stuff. Those are getting those is cool. The subsequent at like then the upgrades to each one of those modes, I feel like don't add a ton necessarily.
They
Mhm.
add a little bit, but to do it is like the story gates a few of those things where like a character will be like, here's a new piece, and now you have a new thing. And then like upgrading those usually is just a matter of finding the right components, which you can buy from people or find in the world. Other abilities, um, a lot of those things are they call them experts. You have like I think there's 9 of them, just characters. You start with the bartender, that guy from Canto Bite, and there's just like a character, and then underneath them is like a list of abilities, which I guess Kay imparted from their teachings. um it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, even though she does go, I need you to teach me, and then she like the gunslinger goes, loosen your shoulder, and then she's like, wow, I learned so much. and then so
Yeah,
underneath each one of those is like a list of abilities that have special requirements, like kill 3 death troopers in a row and this, and then you get this. So some of them are like
Mm.
easy, some of them are like, oh, I really got to go out of my way to like try and do this. So it's kind of fun to have those like
Sort of
challenges
the
is
Red Dead challenges.
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I was a little disappointed in that system just because in the there goes my alarm. In the like some of the preview videos leading up to the game coming out, um, they made it seem more like you were sort of going to be going back to this person and learning from them. But it's just like you said, it's just sort of like a list of challenges that you have in your game menu,
Hmm.
and when you've completed all those things, it's all like you've unlocked a new skill.
Yeah,
And
They
each of those
basically a
each of those
tree.
yeah, like I
there's no
would have
tree,
rather. I wish there would have been some more interaction with those
right?
characters
E-
to gain the abilities in some
yeah,
way. But
each character has like a very fun story mission when you meet them, and then after you finish that, you just have access to those challenges, and you basically never talk to them again. And then you just use their face in your menu to like categorize the challenges, like, oh, this is the guy who has things that are vaguely related to my speeder, and this is the guy who has things that are mostly about my gun. um
yeah,
Maybe she's like emailing them questions. Is that the only leveling up you do then? Is through those
I wouldn't even call
trees?
it leveling up. Like, it's worth
yeah,
noting there's no XP. You So don't feel like you're missing out by not killing people. Like, you're not like getting XP per kill. It's irrelevant. So sneaking and shooting is just as viable. The only progression you make is finding the bits to upgrade your ship, gun, and speeder from vendors or your workbench, and then those challenges you get from experts. And then occasionally the story might just
yeah.
give you a new thing.
And it's not exactly leveling up, but you will find better pieces of gear to wear, like as far as like
Hmm.
your pants, your jacket, and your gun belt. And some of those will give you like slightly different stats. Like, oh, this one adds another bar of health, or you get to carry more back to vials, or
I've
like
been
I like my one belt I have right now is after you uh get a you lose all your health, and normally you would die and it would be game over and restart from the last checkpoint. Instead, you just bounce right up to full health and get to keep going.
Is that like so you can never ever die?
It only triggers once every so often, but
I had that one equipped and I never saw it happen because I'm like, I keep dying. Maybe it happened and I didn't notice because I didn't die, but I currently have most of my clothes geared towards. I had stuff geared towards sneaking, and now it's all geared towards shooting. I have the thing that gives the cooldown window much closer to the start of the reload timing so that I can get back to shooting as fast as possible. Um, yeah, so it's a little different from other games. It's not like RPG style. It's just like here's a list of skills you can acquire, and like three of them are just increase her max health, which is good. But
Hmm.
those ones are also some of the harder ones to unlock. Um, so I
I like unlocking though. That sounds in a
yeah
way more
I like
interesting than
the.
XP.
I think it works fine. Like we were saying, I
Yeah.
just was hoping there'd be a bit more narrative connection to the whole process.
Yeah.
So let's get into an hour 20 in. We're going to get to the second section of the episode, vibes. We're going to, no spoilers. So, story so far is fine because it's an open world game and it's so sprawling, and I feel like I'm being tugged in different directions. It seems far less focused than something like the Jedi games. Um, there's, I got to wait and see how it pans out because so far I'm like, it's okay. It's not, I don't
Yeah,
hate it, but it's not.
it's
Mm,
pretty kind of like standard heist criminal stuff.
yeah,
The like the main bad guy Sliro.
hate his
I
name.
yeah, hate his name. He seems kind of interesting. Like I like the actor who portrays him and stuff. Um,
The
but
characters in general, I think a lot of the side characters are okay. I think ND5 is disappointingly lame as hell.
oh, really? He's like the only character I care about for the
Maybe
most
it's because
part.
he's kind of a grump. I mean, I
Uh,
just did a mission for once where he's not, because he just sits on your ship the whole time, talking to you and going, "Oh, I don't
yeah,
know about that, Kay. Those
that
are
is
Death
true.
Troopers, Kay. Oh my good." I'm like, "Shut up, man. I
I,
know what I'm doing."
that is one thing that's definitely disappointed me is like the some of the trailers and stuff made it seem like there would be more going on with ND, but like so far anyways, aside from like the cutscene where you first meet him, other than that, he basically, yeah, he just sits on your ship and insults you. But as time goes on, he insults you less because he does
Yeah,
start to respect you more. But then also it leads to like they have these him and Kay kind of have like these weird conversations about freedom and living your own life, and I don't know, and it just it
I
feels
think she's
really
going
sort of
to.
like hokey.
I think she's going to remove his restraining bolt with her mouth. Okay. There was I did one mission where he was actually on the ground with me and it made me dislike him more. I think that's when I realized,
Oh.
man, you know what? Screw this guy because like he wasn't contributing because like I get he was just kind of there and I was doing all the fighting. I'm like, bro, you're a commando droid. Like, did they forget to program you to do cool things? Like the game developers, not the people who made the droid. Um, but I think there aren't any characters that stand out as like, yes, this is there's no Marin or whatever, somebody who is I'm like, this is the coolest new character.
Yeah, I mean, even Kay herself is just very like,
She's sort of a blank slate for
yeah, like I know people. There was a bunch of people when the game was first announced and stuff who were really mad that they were like, oh, they're just making a female Han Solo knockoff. They're making a ma'am Solo. Like that's a thing that people called it, and which is incredibly stupid. But also, like, she's not nearly as interesting as Han Solo is at all.
No,
She
I can
is,
she does get they clearly like used him as some inspiration. The Red Dead Deadeye, like her shooting pose, and only when she does that move is kind of she's got like the Han Solo shooting pose. But I think the most interesting thing about her is that she's really bad at lying.
oh
The game
yeah.
hasn't made a point about that, but like it just comes up in all the cutscenes where she like
Well,
tries to bullshit her way out of things, and everyone just sort of doesn't call her on it.
yeah, and it's a weird thing because everyone in the game clearly believes her, but she is super clearly lying because I mean, we as the player already would know that she's lying when she says these things because she's lying about them. But they don't just have her lie like a normal person would. She's always like, there's all like, oh, is she's all like, I'm here to find so and so, and they're like, oh, you a friend of theirs? Oh yeah, 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 yeah. You bet. I'm the friend. Yep. Friend. And it's like, did we really need that?
The
um, just overall, I'm not impressed with a lot of the voice, a lot of the acting in the game. There's a couple characters here and there, like I said, like even if I don't necessarily like, even if you don't necessarily like Endy's character, I think he's well acted and stuff.
I think
And
Kay is
I think
well acted
Slero,
too.
and like I said, I think Slero is as well, even if it's a bit over the top sometimes.
I think the whoever plays Kay, I forget her name. I think she does really good. It's clearly she got some like directorial, like hey, ham it up, and she does. And but I
I
think
like her a lot in the little bit I've seen. Like in some of the cutscenes, she's doing, I feel like, really good like physical acting. Like they did, they did mocap for a lot of these animations and stuff. Like
I don't
this
have
cutscene I
any.
just saw where she like got in and out of the spear. It's like, oh, I can really see her character, that she's kind of not done much, but she's like trying to look like a real professional. Like there's stuff like that that's coming through that I'm like, oh, I think like I'm really buying this performance. I don't know, I like her.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that much though.
I think overall she's not particularly interesting, but she has, just because I've been playing as her, grown on me, and I don't have any issue with like her performance, even though we were making fun of how she lies, but I kind of fun, but I don't think it's like bad acting on the actor's part. It's bad acting on the character's part.
Yeah, like I mean, she didn't write that line. The actor didn't. So, um,
It's
but
not a spoiler that Lando is in this game. He was in the trailers, and
yeah,
I will say, for perhaps the first time in my life, Billy D. Williams is not playing Lando. There might have
He's
been a couple video games here and there that he didn't play him in, but
he's been getting a little old for it, honestly.
oh,
Like
he should not
it
be playing
shows
Lando
through.
anymore. Like, let the guy take a break. However, I feel like they could have cast a better sound alike, or even a sound close, because the guy's not even a sound close.
yeah.
He's just
This is,
it's
and
just
it's. I'm pretty sure it's not Amelia Clark doing Kira either,
I
right?
haven't heard from her yet. I know she's in the game, but I'm
Um.
pretty sure it's not her.
Okay. So, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not her because, like, I heard her voice a lot, you know,
You know
and
what?
this
I think
person gets close, but it's like it's I don't know, it's just different enough that it bothers me,
I
but
thought even Jabba
it's pretty
sounded
close.
off.
Hmm.
Bib Fortuna sounded good. Maybe it's Matthew Wood again,
Yeah.
but
You know what I thought was funny is um in Jabba's palace you can find a data pad that's just like a message from Bib, like telling people like, "Hey, don't mess with the Bomar monks; it won't end well for you."
yeah, I saw that
Which
one.
makes me laugh because of his fate in Legends
Hmm.
when the Bomar monks steal his brain.
Oh, another like there's a number of little like side just nods like that, because there's a part where just some side fetch quest where there's a Pike. He's like, I need you to help me get parts for like a repulsor train on Tatooine, and she's like, okay. I'm like, oh, Kay is complicit in the train that killed all the Tuskens in Book of Boba Fett because she helped hook the Pikes up with that train.
I saw one that was tweeted that you can find a message from Ochia Bastoon or whatever his name is,
Uh-huh.
and it looked really well written. Where it's like, okay, this guy sounds like a complete dumbass nerd who's
That's
going
how
off
he is in the
assassinating people.
comics.
Yeah, so they matched that. So, so
I
references like that are good.
Oh, and you know what? So speaking of vibes, let's talk about um the worlds you go to, because like Kurt was saying and like I was saying, that's how I spent so much of my time initially, is just walking around looking at everything. It's Toshara, the world they created, I think is gorgeous. I love it because it's like it's just an Earth environment. It's like this African savannah, but they've introduced that like alien element of these huge veins of slightly glowing orange stuff. The city is cool. I love all the cities that you walk around in because there's so much more lived in than like anything was in the Jedi games. There's so many NPCs. Some of them are having conversations that give you tips on stuff.
Yeah.
Some of them are just having conversations about whatever. And I just still want to like. It's unrealistic that they don't go. Why are you standing there 2 feet from me, lady, listening to me? But
Yeah.
um,
I will say it is sort of annoying though that like most of them don't. I mean, aside from the ones that you can specifically talk to, most of them will not react to you in any sort of way. Like a guy walking down the street will just is just a collision obstacle for you.
right,
Like,
yeah.
you
There's
know, you
certain.
can't like shoulder past them or anything like that, like you can in other games.
I didn't expect it to be like Red Dead, where I could literally stand up from the sabacc table and shoot someone in the face if I wanted to. I didn't expect that. In this game, if you're in a city, you are unable to engage in combat. You walk around. That's fine. It's like that in Horizon and other similar games. Like there's people the game doesn't want you to be able to murder, and that's perfectly fine. It makes sense. However, yeah, the characters in the world, like unless it's a shopkeeper or someone giving you a quest, they just don't acknowledge your existence. You can't bump into them. You can't do anything. There's a lot of. It became very clear to me that all of the non-standard human characters are set pieces. Like if you see a Chadrafan or a Jawa, they're not walking around. They're like on the edge doing some cool little scene, like cleaning a droid. Everybody who's actually walking is like one of like 10 species that are human shaped, like a Moncala, Quarren, a Pantoran. Like if you go into the diner Janta's Hope, there's a guy who's always passed out in a booth, and every time you go there, it's like a different species because it's just loading a random like human shaped alien, which makes
Mhm.
sense. It's just like I can see through like the gaminess of it, which I'm like, oh, there's way more species in Star Wars than what 90% of the people in this game are, but it's probably only going to bother like super Star Wars nerds like me, and it barely bothers me. I'm just like, oh, would be cool if there was, like 1% of these people were some rarer species. Um,
I do feel like at first glance, for me, it has more aliens than a lot of Star Wars games actually do. Like, there's like just lots of, and again, they're kind of like common ones, like you said. There's like a lot of Rhodians and Celestins and stuff, but it's like, oh, there actually are like a lot of aliens, including people you talk to, and there's like new takes on some of them too. It's like, oh, this Rhodian has different uh, hair
yeah,
style than other Rhodians. It's like, oh, that's kind of a cool little touch. So I think
yeah,
some of it's
they
good.
all look great, especially with like the
Well,
Trandoshans. And like Trandoshans have like so much like diversity within their species that it's like a little more noticeable when you see every single Trandoshan is like human sized, which feels small
Hmm.
for a Trandoshan.
yeah. I will say though, like the humans and the other human faced characters, like the Twi'leks and Pentarns and stuff, I'm not. I don't know. The facial models don't do it for me. Everyone
I was
looks
just
kind of goofy.
It might be your settings or something because I just watched the Digital Foundry tech video on PC specifically, and they were gushing over how in cutscenes characters look kind of bad, but in game, even the random NPCs look really good, and they were like zooming in on them. I'm like, damn, that
Well, I'm
dice is
not
really
talking
good.
about that. I'm just talking about the way their faces are structured.
Oh,
Like the actual
they're
like
goofy looking,
The
not bad graphics.
physiognomy.
yeah, not bad graphics. I mean, they're just modeled strangely. And like especially I think the one real standout is Kay, to where between the in-game and in like pre-rendered cutscenes, she looks like a totally different person.
That's what they were saying in the Digital Foundry video, and I was like, oh yeah, I see that now.
Hmm.
I
But there's
it's kind
not
of
there's not a lot of pre-rendered cutscenes in this game, so you don't notice see it a ton, but those times when it does happen, it's kind of jarring just how they don't look the same. Um
in addition to species. I noticed that there's only R2 and R5 astromechs. There's a lot of astromechs, only R2 and R5. Couldn't have had an R4. That would have been enough. But
It is cool that there are a lot of astromechs rolling around, though,
yeah, and
because again, you don't really see a lot of those in a lot
there
of
have
games.
been at least 3 side quests where I've had to speak to one, and there was one. He was like speaking in garble. He was just like beeping at me, and the guy next to him is like, "Oh, somebody like stole his parts, and they even stole his dignity too." And he's like, "I'm like, aren't you gonna help him?" And he's like, "He's not my droid." I'm like, "Okay," so I had to go like find him a new part, and he was very happy. Then there was,
I like the one that you had to fix it by shooting it.
yeah, I posted that one on Discord where he goes, "Please, for the love of Criff, shoot me." And I was like, "What?" uh, I will
It's like a
say,
Borderlands NPC.
initially, I think a lot of people might have been like, "Oh, we're going to Tatooine again," and I was sort of like, "How many times do we got to go to Tatooine?" And then I didn't. Tatooine was the last place I visited. I went to all the other places first, and when I got to Tatooine, I was just like, "I'm on Tatooine. I've been to Tatooine in other video games before, but not like this, where I'm like, oh, I landed at this place I never heard of. I'm gonna drive my bike to Mos Eisley, and then I'm gonna walk around until I find the cantina, because I'm gonna walk into the cantina." And then I was like, "It's Star Wars, guys! Look, I'm in the cantina, and there's a." I liked how there was a different band playing, and they weren't playing the same song. The band was cool, and you can like see parts of it you couldn't see before. You could see the blaster on the wall where Greedo shot at Han and
Oh, yeah,
missed.
the blaster score mark is there.
It was weird that it puts you in Docking Bay 94, but like you can't find that sign that has 94 on the wall. I don't know if I want to call it iconic because most people don't notice it. You could see it in
I was looking
Mandalorian too.
for it.
I was looking for it. Like the entryway there felt like they changed the architecture of the docking bay from what I expected. But like just walking around Mos Eisley is very cool, and going into the cantina. I don't think I've been to Tashi Station yet. I think that's a place you can go. I don't think there's the Skywalker farmstead. There's a lot of abandoned ones, but I don't think
I
any
thought
of them are Skywalker.
I don't know if there's one that is supposed to actually be Skywalker, but I've seen screenshots people posted of it where it's essentially, if it isn't their farmstead, it's a very close clone.
One thing that sort of annoyed me, there is a quest where you have to go into a dead Sarlacc. They had posted the full quest in a video a month before the game came out. And I was just like, might just be Legends brain in me, but going, I thought there was only one Sarlacc on Tatooine and that they were exceedingly rare galaxy wide. And now there's just like a dead one in the Dune Sea, presumably not very far from the one at the pit of Carcoon. And like it looked even bigger than that one. I'm like, okay, so why wasn't Jabba throwing guys into that one this whole time? Because that one's cooler.
That's probably the one that was killed by Luke um, during Super Star Wars, and
Okay.
then so it's a different Sarlacc by the time we get around to the time of Super Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, if you knew your
Got it.
canon better, you would have understood this reference.
Jabba's palace is cool too. Seeing just like, oh, I remember the layout from the Battlefront map, which was trying to be faithful to the what we see in the film and stuff. And like, okay, a lot of this map's right onto that, but plus there's just so much more because you can explore different parts. So just everything on Tatooine was like cool because I'm like, I'm in the movie. I'm seeing all this stuff in new ways, and then the other planets. I think Kijimi might. No, Akiva's my least favorite because it sucks to traverse, but it's pretty. Kijimi is cool just because it's a cool design. I think Tashara and Tatooine are my
Yeah,
favorite places to be,
I
though.
don't like the way they do the snow effects on your character
Yeah,
when you're
it
on
builds up a little
Kijimi.
fast.
Yeah, well, and it just sort of looks like you just got blasted with like someone with like white paintball gun or something. Doesn't really look like snow, and that's not really what happens when you go out walking around when it's snowing. I don't.
Well, based on the scene where Nyx tries to lick ice, it's clear that nobody who worked on that game ever lived in like a cold weather place.
This is very true. Um, but
So,
yeah, overall, I think I like the planets. I haven't actually gone to Akiva yet, but the other ones have been pretty cool. Um, and like I think we've already talked about graphics a little bit.
I'll just say
I
10 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10 on like Star Warsiness and Star Wars vibes.
mhm.
Like I said, like it's just I enjoy just walking around like the populated areas and soaking it in and looking at things. It's
And
just it's
lots
great.
of good details too, not just like Easter egg stuff, but it's like I like the design of Kay's pistol. It looks cool. I like the design of like a lot of the costumes and clothes and props and stuff, even stuff that isn't just stuff we've seen a million times, like this different model of speeder. It's like, oh, that's a cool speeder, stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
or
I
just
think they did
like
a good job.
every single bar or cantina you go to is always exciting because there's like the bar in Bestine on Tatooine. There's like a swoop bike mounted behind the bar, and they have
Hmm.
different types. Every bar seems to have slightly different music. Some have live bands, some don't. Um, every bar you go to is cool. There's always like tables strewn with weird Star Wars junk. Everything it just looks really cool, and it's like fun to just walk around and
And I
look at
like that
stuff.
they added arcade games to Star Wars. Like it feels like a good fit. It feels so perfectly scummy to like have this like little corner stall in this grungy city that's like here's like two arcade games set up. You know what I mean? It's like yeah, that fits. Uh,
That did just make me realize there are no children in this game.
mm.
Um, Technically, you see
Except
Kay
in
as a child
flashbacks.
in a
Yeah,
flashback, but you'd think in the cities where you're not allowed to shoot at people, there's no reason they couldn't have put kids in there.
yeah.
It's like a lot big reason some games don't put kids is they just don't want the player to attack them.
And then you could reuse that model for like the Chadra fans and other small
Right. They already
species.
have the Chadrafan and the Jawas. Seems cut. That's a cut corner. No, maybe
Yeah.
they just don't. They don't live
Maybe it's
on.
canon. The Empire's been like rounding up kids. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
They all
let's
hide
just
because Kay has a death mark. She's on like the list, and everyone hides their kids away before she shows up.
uh, all right. Let's just talk on let's touch on technical stuff just a little bit real quick here, because this is going to be a long episode.
Yeah,
um,
I'll get mine out of the way. Almost none.
yeah.
Obviously, I'm playing on PS5. I've
Well,
gotten the weird bug where the characters sort of like clone themselves when you shoot them, which is funny rather than annoying. And that's about it.
yeah. Well, I'm not just bugs and stuff. I just mean like overall graphics. Like I think like I've said earlier, I think a lot of the character models don't look great.
So that's like an art
The
design
faces, yeah,
critique.
but the actual, like the actual graphics of the game and the characters, I think look great. Even if you're playing on low settings, this game still looks really
Oh,
good.
it's
Yeah.
fabulous.
Um,
I put it in quality mode because on PlayStation you can either like shoot for 60 FPS or lock in at 30 with better graphics. And I picked like I'm like, oh, the cutscenes are 30 regardless. I'll just pick 30. It's more cinematic, I guess. But oh, that's another thing. If you're playing on console, disable the cinematic aspect ratio. It does nothing for you. You're missing out on screen space. It's a very dumb and weird choice. Um, we learned that if you're playing on PC, that is not the case. Uh, but if you're playing on console, it's just putting black bars over stuff that you would otherwise be seeing. It limits your field of view. But
yeah, if you do it
it
in
looks so
on
good.
PC, it does actually change your aspect ratio. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Um, but I do like that there's a lot of graphic options too. Yeah, at least on PC, you've got a lot of choices for controlling your graphics. Sometimes with some games don't. They give you like a low, medium, and high setting, and that's like all they let you do. You can't customize or change stuff. This one you can have a lot of granularity. But
It,
yeah, like I said, overall, I think the graphics look great.
it's
Aside from
it's so
the
pretty.
character faces, a lot of the models for everything else look really, really good. Um,
Yeah, it's one of the best games I've seen in a long time.
yeah,
This is one of the reasons I didn't pick it up on the Xbox because I have a Series S, and I'm like, this is the first like new Star Wars game I bought on PlayStation rather than Xbox ever, and I was like, I need to get the most out of this that I can, and the S isn't going to be able to hold a
yeah,
candle to the PS5.
yeah. And
Speaking of,
as far as like bugs go, I've had um, a couple things where like I was fell through the world a few times. Um, you know, that's gonna happen with an open world game some every now and then. Um, I've had I when I first installed the game, I did install it on a regular spinning disk hard drive instead of a solid state, and I had a ton of like loading issues, um, which kind of annoyed me because it installed just about every other game on that same hard drive and never have issues quite like this. Um, but I just I just moved the game over to my solid state, and that was all resolved. So it's not even really a bug or a technical issue. Just I don't know. The game's probably not as optimized as it could be because I'm sure there's probably like huge texture files and stuff that it's trying to stream over
yeah, that'll probably
from
be in
the
like 2 years. There'll be a patch that fixes that.
yeah. Um,
Interestingly, that Digital Foundry video where they're looking at the PC stuff, they said there's like a hidden, if you like do a command line thing, you can unlock one more graphics setting. That's basically something they'll probably unlock later. It's there's like a setting for like technology and computer hardware that doesn't exist yet, so it can look better than current computers can bother with.
interesting. Hey, okay, not and then I mean, and Kurt, you kind of already talked about you had similar issues with the loading, but you are installed on a solid state, so
Yeah, it's for sure on my solid state. For a while, I didn't think the game was loading at all. It seemed like it was hanging. Eventually, once I let it sit forever, it takes 25 minutes to load from the main menu,
yeesh.
get into the game. Now, once I die or something, it only takes 3 minutes, so that's not so bad. Uh, but yeah, and I've also had crashes and stuff, and I've at the main menu or the pause menu in game like does not load a lot of assets, so I'm having a lot of technical issues, which does suck because I really want to play it,
And
and so far they haven't really patched any of that. I
Yeah,
don't
like
know.
I did see that there was a hot fix coming out today that was going to fix a couple performance issues on PC, so maybe that'll help with you,
yeah,
but
because
who
I honestly
knows?
think you're really gonna like the game, and I think if people have a choice, maybe play it on console if you can stomach that over PC. Because my longest
Seems
loading
like that's
time
what people
was like
prioritize.
10 seconds.
Wow. Oh, I wish.
Like I
I wish I
fast
could load
travel
the
and it
menu
takes
in
like
10
5
seconds.
seconds to fast
Yeah.
travel, and like usually the game is still just in its rested state unless, because PlayStation is worse than Xbox when it comes to having multiple games running at once. If I switch games, like Bethany plays Fortnite on there, then I have to start the game from the title screen, and then it'll take like a whole minute to get back into my game. But if
Yeah,
it was
I
on
can't even
Xbox, it
load.
would have had that quick resume where you can have like 5 games running at once and just pick
Hmm.
up where you left off.
Yeah, I can't even load a lore entry in under 10 seconds.
Ugh.
So
Well, to be fair, the lore entries are not that worth reading. However, the other day I discovered some of the collectibles you get are holodramas, and if you click on
Those
them,
are pretty funny.
it's a basically just an audio drama, and one is like a romance show on like a cruise ship or something. One's a cop show and one's like a little house on the prairie. They're like, the bantha's sick.
Um,
Anyway, any final thoughts, everybody?
yeah. Okay. Like, what would you say out of 10, Joe?
I was thinking about that because when 2 hours in, I would have said 6 out of 10. Now I am about 30 hours in, and I'm enjoying it like 9 out of 10. But I don't think it deserves a 9 out of 10 because, like I said, a lot of games do. If I was like a game reviewer who's like, "This is a video game," I'd say probably like 7.5, 8 out of 10. Uh, as like a Star Wars game, this is like a 9 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of am the same but for me, it's where like I'd say the game is like a 6, but because of the Star Wars aspect to it, that bumps it up to like 7.5 for me. Which is to say, and I know some people are going to look at like 7.5 out of 10 and to act like that's really bad, but I also think like a lot of uh, uh, reviews inflate their scores too much. Like,
There's
you
been
know,
inflation in game review scores over the last 20 years.
you know,
That's for
like,
sure.
yeah, like a 7.5 out of 10 is kind of like a C, in like grades from school,
I mean, when
which
I
is,
was a
like
kid, like if I saw
considered
a
like,
game like a 7 was like most games, I'm like, okay, cool, it doesn't suck.
yeah. And that's exactly what I'm saying is like a 7 is like a good game. 7 is once you start to get like 8 and 9 territory, you should be talking like phenomenal games. So I'm not throwing shade at this game by
I
rating it a
highly
7.5.
I highly recommend Star Wars Outlaws, and if Star Wars Unlimited hadn't come out this year, it would probably be my game of the year.
I wouldn't go that far, but I would say, yeah. I mean, if you're a Star Wars fan, you should play the game. It's fun.
Yeah. Even if you don't like open world games, you can mostly focus on the story. Kurt, what's your rating?
I mean, I've played so little, I can't really say. Like, with the technical issues, I want to give it like 2 or 3 because that really, really makes it hard to
I mean,
play
this is
for me.
exactly what happened with Jedi Survivor. We were talking, and then
Yeah,
Kurt was like, I couldn't even play.
yeah. What I've played of it, I do like. So like, I can extrapolate and think it probably feels like it could be like a 7, and I'll be like, yeah, I like it overall. But until stuff is patched, I don't know. I don't know yet if I'm going to be trying to play it every day because having to wait
Yeah.
25 minutes on the
Yeah, but I
stupid.
mean, it's also like it's hard for you to knock the game since, like you said, your CPO is under the so.
Barely, and that shouldn't affect like the effing load times and stuff. I don't know. It drives me
I
crazy.
think once you finally get to play it as intended, you're gonna love it because it's Kurt stuff. It's you know bounty type guys in the OT era, underbelly stuff. No Jedi
Yeah,
around.
Mhm.
and you have a cool little pet. I don't think we really talked about
We didn't
much
talk
about
about
how cool
Nyx.
Nyx is.
I
I wish I
made
could teach my cats to like go like grab stuff for me and
Maul
open doors.
stormtroopers.
We
It makes
talked
sense
about
when there's
Nyx a
people
bit.
through the wall for
Yeah,
me.
Nyx is great. Oh, that's my other super minor quibble. Um, is that Nyx is voiced by D. Bradley Baker, notable for voicing all the clones, or maybe more relevant in The Last Airbender. He voiced Appa and Momo. He's voiced everything. He also voices Nubs in Young Jedi Adventures, and Nubs and Nyx sound the fucking same. Like, come on, man.
Maybe they're the same species.
They're absolutely not. Nubs is like a blue teddy bear, and Nyx is a Mark Hall. They
Yeah,
said
well, just wait.
Eventually, he'll grow.
He's going to go into a cocoon at the end of the game. Like you watch all the way to the end credits, and he goes
that
into
being
a cocoon after credits, and then he hatches out as a
As a
nubs.
Yoda. My only complaint about Nyx is he should be more furry and less scaly because I don't want to pet a scaly thing. That's not nice, like a
I
furry thing would be.
I made Bethany make a choice. I said, "Who's cuter, BD1 or Nyx?" And she didn't like that question, but she had to, I think, out of loyalty, choose BD1.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really like pet a metal robot either, but
I love his when you
I
tell
like
him to
BD1.
distract people, he just walks over and like does a really exaggerated play dead, like goes stiff and falls on his back. It's funny. It's like a big suspension of disbelief is that none of the criminals or stormtroopers shoot him on sight because they all go, "What is this creature? Get out of here!" And they don't just
Also,
go blast it.
I close the door behind me a lot, and he's definitely like
Oh,
teleporting through the
he's good at
walls because
teleporting.
it's.
Yeah.
Also, closing the door behind you does nothing.
Oh,
Oh,
I do
I
that all the
found,
time. It
yeah,
saved my ass.
oh, really? Because they just, they just open the door and then keeps
Well,
you.
they might open it, but I mean, if they haven't seen me before, it's really good when they're
Well,
about to.
yeah, there's that, but also like
Well, you
there's
think they're going
also
to give up on fighting you?
there's not very many instances um where the door makes a difference between them seeing and not seeing you, though.
the game should let you shoot the door panel to lock
Maybe
it.
it
That'd
does.
be
Yeah.
I've never
cool.
tried it. I know you can like shoot other things like the alarm controls and stuff.
Oh, really?
Because like
Hmm.
some missions say don't get caught. Like they see you, you're done. Some just say don't raise the alarm. And if that's the case, as long as you get rid of the alarm, either by sabotaging it with Nyx or shooting it or turning it, breaking it yourself, you can have a gunfight, and that fight isn't going to spread beyond that area because they're not raising the alarm.
Hmm.
But anyway, that's the thoughts on uh outer
Outlaws.
outlaws,
Outlaws.
outer laws. Makes me want to play Star Wars Outer Rim, the board game, and I want a Nyx
Yeah,
character for
yeah,
that because the
yeah.
reputation system reminds me a lot of that.
They
But
could do an expansion with Kay and
the
Cal and
Trailblazer, we didn't
Yeah.
even talk about the ship. I think it's a cool ship.
the
Got,
inside's really
it's
cool.
got wood panel floors, got hardwood floors.
It's got cool little compartments that you can store jackets in.
I
It's
liked
like
the lore
nice.
behind it, where it was just a really good ship that was too expensive, so everyone stopped making it. Uh, anyway, that's that. I hope all of our future episodes are not this long because, but you know what? I'm back. That's the big takeaway. So tell us what you think about Outlaws if you've been playing it, if you've been planning on playing it. Uh, the other things you might have thoughts about. We are gonna. I don't know if we'll revisit this. Maybe in what you've been playing after Kurt has played a bunch, but come check out us on the Discord. We have a Discord where we are talking about Outlaws and Unlimited and Legion and every other Star Wars game you could possibly want to talk about. So stay tuned for all of that good stuff. Check out our Patreon if you like what we do. Check out Hell if you don't like what we do. Normally, I don't have to stay up this late recording because I was in a different time zone. But now I'm in the Midwest again. Okay. Bye, everybody. See you next time
See ya.
on the Jodo Cast.